Good morning. University President, MSOE leadership and regents, esteemed guests, distinguished faculty, parents, and most importantly, graduates. It is my privilege this morning to introduce your class respondent, Adrian Manchado. I promise not to take more than a few minutes of your time this morning doing this so that we can all get on to the main event. But that really makes my job extra difficult because there are so many wonderful things that I could say about Adrian. Adrian's undergraduate story is one of, in my humble opinion, overcoming adversity. And it begins not with our campus, not with MSOE, but with Cardinal Stritch University. You see, Adrian began his time in higher education there. And at the end of his freshman year, Cardinal Stritch announced that it was closing. It's hard for me to imagine just how dislocating this must have been for Adrian. First year student, right, taking his first steps into adulthood, first in his family to go to college, a stranger in a strange land as an international student. Excuse me, his entire future suddenly at risk through no fault of his own. But my experience with Adrian is that he's not one to passively accept his fate. He's a person of action, and his action in response to the setback was to come here to MSOE and to thrive. And we are all richer for it. Now, I know Adrian best as his undergraduate research advisor. Over the course of a year-long collaboration together, he and I developed a method for measuring the most important moments of decision for an artificial intelligence, and an approach for feeding those moments back to the AI as it learns to help it learn more quickly. And you know what? Spoiler alert, right? Science is really hard. Like, it's really, really hard. It's a intensely creative process with setbacks, with uncertainty, with no clear path forward, and with no guarantee of success at the end. And I think that the thing that I've come to admire most about Adrian is something that's been on display as he and I have managed this extraordinarily difficult process together, and that's his sense of optimism. In every meeting we had, no matter how our research was going, no matter what sort of results we were seeing, he ended that meeting with, "Great, I think we have a good path forward," every time. That sense of optimism is emblematic with how I think Adrian looks at the world. And I'm going to paraphrase here a little bit, but my sense is that Adrian's view is that we can always make the world better through our choices and our actions. And his time at MSOE has been a continual demonstration of that worldview in action. So at this point, right, I could try and give you a sense of that impact, right, the impact he's had on campus by mechanically listing all the achievements that he's had here. And maybe I will mention a few, right? Captain of a two-time tournament champion men's soccer team, two-time 𝗁𝗰𝗸 competition finalist, Stanford University Innovation Fellow, right, who led the development of a new course for our campus, which is, a job we usually give to our faculty, right, who have PhDs. Mentor for scores of his younger colleagues through his internship at Direct Supply and his participation in the AI-Club. One of 11 first-team academic All-Americans, winner of the Thomas W. Davis Student Leadership Award for exemplary leadership for helping to inspire groups of people to act together to solve big problems. Recipient of the 𝗁𝗍 Award, right? 5 selected out of 10,000 student athletes, right? And I could go on and on and on. But instead of going on and on and on, what I think I'll do is I'll invite Adrian to come to the mic and allow his sense of optimism to inspire you as it has inspired me. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Let me move this 1 second. Okay. Thank you, Dr. 𝘁𝗍𝗄, for those kind words and for your incredible patience. You had a lot of patience and guidance throughout our research. It's been a pleasure working with you. First, I wanted to thank the Commencement Committee for the opportunity to represent my incredible fellow graduates in the class of 2026. I'm humbled by this honor. After what Dr. 𝘁𝗍𝗄 shared, it might seem like I was born coding, fixing all computers, and hacking my neighbor's Wi-Fi. But like a lot of my classmates here, the reality is a little different. I am from Cuba's de la Sagra, a town of about 6,000 people outside of Madrid, Spain. My dad worked in construction, my mom was a dance teacher, and my grandparents were taxi drivers. Technology wasn't really a thing in our house. And if anyone fixed the family computer, that was my brother, definitely not me. But my family taught me something more important: how to work hard, how to stay humble, and how to believe in a dream before anyone else would. And I know I'm not the only one here who arrived at MSOE carrying lessons from home. Some of us came from across the world, some from across the state, some from families of engineers, and some from families who had no idea what we were doing, but they supported us anyway. In my case, my family was there for all my delusional dreams. And trust me, I had a lot of those. A lot of those began with the Choose Your Own Adventure books my grandfather, sitting today in the audience, gave me as a child. In those books, every few pages, you, the main character, have to make a decision. Depending on what you choose, your whole story changes. At a time, I thought they were just for fun. Looking back, they taught me one of the most valuable lessons of my life. The best stories are written once you take action. Growing up, I was fully convinced that my next page was going to be professional soccer. So convinced that at 17, I told my parents I wanted to move to the United States to become a professional soccer player and continue my education. For those who were lucky enough to watch me play, you know how delusional that was. Somehow, my parents supported me, and at 18, I started my American dream. I spent 1 year at Cardinal Stritch before the school closed. It wasn't easy. It was one of those moments where life turns the page for you before you're ready. Maybe for you, your school didn't close, but every person sitting here has had some version of that moment. The moment when the plane changes, when the thing you counted on disappears. And in those moments, we have a choice. We can either stop reading, or we can write the next page ourselves. I chose the second one. I opened Excel, I made a list of 400 colleges, and I sent emails to each of the soccer coaches. One of those went to Coach 𝗵𝗵𝗳𝗲 at MSOE, and that email became the beginning of this chapter. MSOE gave me the biggest opportunity of my life to continue my education and remain in this country. That day, I made a commitment that I would give as much as I could back to this school and back to my coach. But that commitment didn't start very well. And like a lot of students here, my first semester wasn't very smooth. I didn't start any of my first 9 games. My first AI Club project died within 2 months, and we lost in the finals of the conference tournament. I really didn't feel like I was part of the school or the team. And many of you know exactly what that feels like. At some point, MSOE made all of us question whether we belong here. But that is when I started to see the incredible things that people around me were doing. I walked outside my dorms, and I saw my peers driving robots down the highway and opening their doors with facial scanners. Students in the 𝗁𝗰𝗸𝗁 competition were trying to solve world hunger. And Ben Paulson, the AI Club president, was growing the organization from a handful of us to one of the biggest in the nation. Nobody told them they had to do it. They just did it. So I thought, why can't I do it myself too? That is one of the biggest gifts of this place. At MSOE, you are surrounded by people who make you raise your own standards, push you to limits you never thought of. It is impossible to not be inspired when you are surrounded by people with such a high bar. But this inspiration means nothing without direction. And that direction came through mentorship, which I believe is one of the pillars of the MSOE experience, and that all of you have experienced as mentees or mentors. In my case, I had Jonathan King, the captain of the soccer team, who stayed up with me every Friday night showing me the craft of programming, was the person in the shadow for our 𝗁𝗰𝗸𝗁 competition projects, and guided my steps throughout this journey. As well as something every one of us has had here at MSOE, people who gave more than they were required to give. Faculty members who served as club advisors because they wanted to see us grow. Coaches and trainers went above and beyond helping our athletes. Incredible educators and staff such as Career Connection Center, ARCA, Student Affairs, and many more. To all of you, thank you. You do an incredible job, you care deeply about our success, and your work is the foundation of this ecosystem. However, things get tough in life, and you need people in the trenches with you, who believe in you when you don't even believe in yourself. For me, that was the MSOE men's soccer team. I found a family thousands of miles from mine, where every player, coach, and parent treated me like one of their own. And I know many of you have found your own version of that family here too. The person on the team who was always there for me was Turner Celio, who is sitting here today in the audience. We basically lived the same college life, same projects, same classes, same summer leagues, and he was there for every stupid idea I had to back me up. Any award or success I've had, he deserves just as much credit for. So in life, be like Tanner. Show up when your teammate is down, listen, don't judge, but always, always hold them to the highest standard. And whatever new thing you start, find your Tanner to do it with. Every one of us has a version of this story. Someone who inspired us, someone who guided us, someone who fought alongside us. That is MSOE. And for the parents, families, and friends who may not have seen what this place is like, I wanted to highlight just a small set of things this class has achieved in its free time, over the last 4 years. Setting a world record in the BEX Robotics World Championship, winning the Formula Hybrid World Championship, traveling to foreign countries to do humanitarian work, using our 𝘁𝗁 supercomputer in incredible ways such as improving healthcare in Africa, detecting dementia, or teaching new languages, starting many clubs and teams like women's lacrosse, hockey, swim, and dive, winning more than 15 conference titles in the last 4 years, and many more than these that I'm leaving out. All that while attending an incredibly challenging and rigorous institution. I think that is more than remarkable. Let's give a round of applause for that. So now, as we look towards the future, let's go after life. The only ask I have for you is to bring that initiative, persistence, and drive you've shown in the last 4 years into this new chapter we are starting today. And change will not happen overnight, but it's no different from what you've already done here. You've dealt with the stakeholder who wouldn't fund your trip, the project that looked impossible to complete before the competition, the class that wasn't clicking, the coach who didn't play you at first, the club that at the beginning, it was just you and your 𝗍𝗶𝗳. You went through all of that and you figured it out. Because no matter what your major was, what path you took, or what your story looked like at MSOE, you learned how to figure things out. That is exactly why you're sitting here today. Because I believe life isn't just something that happens to you. You choose your own adventure. You flip the page. You can do anything you want with yours, no matter where you started, what your parents did, whether anyone gave you the talent or not, or how broken your English sounded in your first college semester. So let's go apply for the job you don't feel qualified for, take the opportunity that seems risky, act like a leader before anyone names you one, and send the email you're scared to send. Because what is the worst thing that can happen? That they say no? Class of 2026, the future is our story. Let's keep turning pages, chasing dreams that scare us, taking chances, building together, and let's never, ever give up. This is our story. Let's make it one that when we look back on it, we can honestly say, it was a blast. Congratulations, class of 2026. Go Raiders.